Picture this: January 5, 1963, southern England before dawn. London streets lie hushed under an iron sky as temperatures plunge to -15 degrees Celsius overnight. Breath crystallizes. Street lamps glow through drifting snow. Rivers stiffen. Buses stall. Somewhere, a radio crackles with warnings few truly believe. Britain, confident and routine-bound, is about to be tested by cold unseen for generations. Winds howl in from the east, carrying Siberian air across fields, towns, and terraced homes. Doors freeze shut, footsteps ring sharp on glassy pavements. This is not a passing chill. It is the opening breath of the harshest winter storm the nation will endure in living memory. A cold chapter begins, silent, relentless, and utterly unforgiving for everyone everywhere nationwide. Only days earlier, Britain moved gently through winter. December markets lingered in memory, milk bottles clinked on doorsteps, and trains kept time. Frost came and went, rain fell, coal fires burned as usual. Families planned January routines without fear. Meteorologists noted falling pressure and stubborn high systems over Scandinavia, but such charts meant little beyond offices and studios. Then the wind shifted. By January 6, air sharpened, pavements hardened, snow began as flakes, polite and slow, before thickening into curtains. Barometers dropped. Radios mentioned an easterly flow, unusually persistent, dragging bitter air westward. Shopkeepers watched doorways. Farmers felt it in the soil. By nightfall, cold crept into bones. Pipes murmured uneasily. Britain stood unaware, balanced on the edge of a winter that would erase assumptions, disrupt lives, and turn ordinary weather into a national ordeal. Schools remained open, buses still ran, and laughter echoed, though breath now smoked visibly outdoors. No alarm sounded yet, but the atmosphere felt tense, brittle, and strangely heavy. Something vast gathered quietly beyond the horizon, waiting to arrive without mercy. At dawn across Britain alone. January 7th brought shock. Overnight snow measured 20 centimeters across the Midlands, deeper drifts forming wherever wind found space. Temperatures fell below -10 degrees Celsius by day, refusing to rise. Roads vanished. Lorries jackknifed. Rail lines ice solid, points frozen immovable. Commuters abandoned cars, walking home in disbelief. By January 8th, the storm tightened its grip. Snow fell continuously, driven sideways by 40-mile-per-hour gusts. Visibility collapsed. Power lines sagged, then snapped, plunging towns into darkness. Telephones failed. Post stopped. Coastal waters churned as ice formed along harbors. Fishing fleets remained ashore. On January 9th, cold intensified further. Night readings reached -20 in places, rivaling Arctic records. Water mains burst beneath streets. Diesel gelled uselessly in engines. Schools closed. Hospitals rationed heat. Emergency services struggled, ambulances crawling along rutted tracks carved through snow. Confusion spread faster than information. Newspapers arrived late, if at all. Radios repeated warnings, but guidance felt distant, abstract. Britain had entered unfamiliar territory, where infrastructure buckled and everyday certainty dissolved beneath relentless white silence. By the 10th, snowplows were overwhelmed, fuel stocks dwindled, and councils declared local emergencies. Villages became islands, cut off by drifts taller than hedgerows, with supplies delayed indefinitely. Helicopters were scarce, maps unreliable, and coordination hampered by frozen equipment and exhausted crews. Each passing hour deepened disbelief as the scale of disruption exceeded every winter memory. Britain watched familiar systems fail, learning abruptly how fragile modern life could become. Cold was no longer weather, it was an occupying force. Every decision now carried risk, every journey a gamble against ice and isolation. The storm had only begun tightening its hold. Worse days loomed ahead, unrelenting and brutally cold. Britain braced itself, uncertain how much more could be endured. As January pressed on without mercy, across the frozen nation, mid-January marked the peak. Snow lay uninterrupted for weeks, depth exceeding a metre across northern England and Wales. Temperatures remained below freezing for over 30 consecutive days, an unprecedented stretch. Inside homes, ice traced window frames. Bedrooms became uninhabitable. Families slept together in single rooms, coats worn indoors. Coal ran low. Paraffin lamps flickered weakly. Shops stood empty, shelves bare of bread, milk, and meat. Deliveries failed repeatedly. Elderly residents rationed warmth, choosing between heat and food. Outside, silence dominated. Snow absorbed sound, turning streets into pale corridors of stillness. At night, darkness deepened as electricity failed. Candles burned cautiously. Fear crept quietly. Hospitals battled frozen pipes while treating frostbite and hypothermia. Farmers fought to reach stranded livestock, digging by hand through drifts higher than fences. Animals perished. Milk yields collapsed. Schools remained closed for weeks, children watching the storm from frosted windows. Trains were entombed, carriages abandoned mid-route. Thousands slept wherever they stopped. The Thames froze in sections. Coastal seas iced, trapping vessels. Deaths mounted, quietly reported. Each morning brought the same sight. Endless white. No thaw, no relief. Britain faced a national emergency defined not by sudden catastrophe, but by endurance against merciless cold. Public transport paralysis stranded workers far from home, shelters improvised in schools, churches, and halls. Fuel shortages worsened daily, queues forming for coal, coke, and firewood under cutting winds. Those without fireplaces shivered endlessly, wrapping newspapers beneath blankets for insulation. Frozen breath hung visibly indoors, a constant reminder of exposure. Emergency broadcasts urged conservation, yet offered little comfort as temperatures refused mercy. Night after night, the cold deepened, seeping into walls, floors, and nerves. Loneliness grew alongside hunger, particularly for the elderly living alone. Reports spoke of villages unseen for days, their residents surviving quietly, stoically. Cold penetrated every routine, every habit, reshaping daily existence. Even laughter sounded muted, swallowed by snow and fatigue. Britain endured, counting days, hoping for thaw, fearing it might never come. Weather charts offered no relief, showing cold locked firmly in place. Morale wavered as weeks blurred together under identical skies. Every household fought its own quiet battle against freezing. This was survival stripped of drama, slow and exhausting. Britain waited, breath held, for change. The cold refused release. Stillness reigned across cities, villages, and countryside alike. Time itself seemed frozen. Hope flickered faintly, stubborn as candle flames. Every sunrise felt identical, every night interminable. The nation pressed on regardless, against nature's unyielding grip, waiting for warmth to return. Somehow, slowly, inevitably. Through February's approach, still frozen. Amid hardship, humanity surfaced. Neighbors checked on neighbors, sharing coal, food, and warmth. Strangers knocked doors simply to ask if help was needed. Children sledged down silent streets, laughter briefly breaking tension. Families pooled resources, cooking together over single stoves. Volunteers formed snow parties, clearing paths to shops, farms, and surgeries. The Royal Army deployed troops, using tracked vehicles to deliver supplies and evacuate the vulnerable. Postmen walked miles through drifts to bring news. Nurses slept at hospitals, unable to travel home. Farmers shared meat, Bakers worked through nights when ovens could be fired. Community halls became lifelines, glowing with conversation and shared meals. Elderly residents found comfort in company, blankets wrapped tight, hands held. In churches and schools, people gathered not just for shelter, but for reassurance. Tea was poured endlessly. Stories were told. Britain remembered itself. Resilience replaced panic. Pride grew quietly. The winter forged connections that outlasted the cold, proving that even in isolation, the nation endured together. Acts of kindness multiplied daily, unnoticed by headlines yet vital to survival. Children learned patience and creativity indoors, inventing games by candlelight. Radio became companionship, voices offering comfort through static. Military convoys cut paths through snowbound regions, restoring fragile lifelines. Volunteers risked frostbite, returning home exhausted but resolute. Small victories mattered: a cleared road, a delivered loaf, a shared fire. These moments stitched communities tighter, strengthening social fabric. Hardship stripped pretense, revealing generosity beneath reserve. The cold created unlikely bonds across class and region. Shared struggle softened divisions, reminding Britain of collective strength. Even as supplies dwindled, morale held. Warmth came from people when fires failed. This spirit became the winter's quiet victory. Long remembered in stories retold for decades. Proof that solidarity could outlast snow. Britain endured through unity. Together, people became the shelter. When weather isolated, humanity connected. A lesson carved by cold. Still spoken of fondly. Across generations nationwide, in memory and pride, ever since then. Gradually, the thaw arrived. In late February, temperatures edged upward. Snow softened, then retreated. Roads reappeared, trains crept back into service, water flowed again. Britain emerged cautiously, surveying damage. Burst pipes flooded homes. Roofs collapsed under lingering weight. Agriculture suffered heavy losses. Transport networks required repair, yet relief outweighed ruin. The winter of 1963 entered history. Records were rewritten. Infrastructure planning changed. Emergency preparedness improved. The experience hardened attitudes toward weather, ending complacency. Generations remembered frozen rivers, silent streets, and shared hardship. Stories passed down at tables and pubs. The storm became a reference point, a benchmark of endurance. It reshaped Britain's relationship with winter, reminding the nation of vulnerability and resilience. Long after the snow melted, its legacy endured, etched into memory, policy, and identity. Communities rebuilt routines slowly, wary of sudden cold returns. Authorities reviewed response strategies, investing in forecasting and resilience. Older homes gained insulation, pipes lagged, plans revised. Public memory kept the winter alive as warning and legend. It was recalled whenever snow fell heavily. Comparisons followed every cold snap thereafter. The freeze became a yardstick of severity. Survivors spoke of lessons learned, patience, preparation, compassion. These values shaped future responses. Britain adjusted, wiser for suffering. The winter left scars, but also strength. It reminded a nation of limits, and of resilience within communities. History recorded the cold faithfully, as memory faded into myth, yet lessons endured beyond years. Embedded in national consciousness. Never fully forgotten. Still referenced today. When cold returns, echoing winter 63, across Britain always, in stories shared by those who lived. Today, that winter lives on in memory. If you or your family remember 1963, share those moments below. These stories matter. They connect generations. Britain Rewind exists to preserve them. Subscribe to keep history alive, to revisit the winters, streets, and voices that shaped the nation. Together, we remember not just the cold, but the courage, kindness, and resilience it revealed. Thank you for watching, and for carrying these memories forward, quietly, proudly, into the future. Until next time, remember Britain's past lives through you. Stay warm, stay curious, stay connected, and keep these stories alive.